Mortal Shell 2 is probably one of the most unbalanced Souls-likes I've ever played, and to an extent, I think that's intended, which can simultaneously be really fun or a straight-up nightmare, and it depends on the kind of player you are. If you're somebody that thinks you'll just grind levels, find your favorite weapon, and go about your day, then this game will absolutely clock you, especially in the later half. Although if you're someone that likes to craft broken builds, then this is the game for you. I swear this is one of the most build-dependent Souls-likes I have played, which can create a really enjoyable experience, but if you don't take the proper time to craft a strong build, you will most likely hate this game. And I think that's where a lot of the issue stems from, with some people criticizing the game for tanky enemies that hit too hard. And mind you, they're not wrong, because yeah, there are a lot of tanky and dangerous enemies, but by the time you reach that point, the game expects you to have a relatively strong build crafted. This comes with an issue depending on what you value though, because the game begins with bosses you have to actively learn and be familiar with to come out on top, but later on you'll just chunk the ever-living shit out of them, practically not needing to learn their attacks. So at some point the game strays away from being a typical Souls-like to a sort of cracked out action RPG because of the builds. Although I will say the game spikes in difficulty with some of the final area bosses, with one of them being straight up dog shit, taking the crown as one of the worst bosses in a Souls-like. Anyhow, the reason you have to build something really strong is because of the enemies, who I'd argue to be more dangerous than the bosses, because as you get further, they swarm the hell out of you and hit like a truck, while being pretty spongy if you didn't build well. With this being said though, building a character is pretty easygoing because you can upgrade or switch out weapons and tar stones pretty easily. What are tar stones? They're items that either give passive or active abilities for your weapons or sidearms, and these have the biggest impact on your gameplay and damage by far alongside your shells. I'd say weapon upgrades feel pretty damn worthless in comparison. Also, shells are the special dead that you can inhabit to gain access to their abilities. You can spend something known as glimpses to unlock more passives in their skill tree, further strengthening your damage. But what sucks is that glimpses are a limited resource, so you can't comfortably switch between different shells. You kinda have to stick to one or two, and I didn't find a way to respec. Anyways, to simplify my points, if you only spend your time leveling your base character or just upgrading your weapons, but not your tar stones or shells, you will most likely be gimped and straight up go numb from how tanky and damage heavy the enemies can be. But with a proper build, fighting enemies is quite fun even in the mid to late game, although the final part of the game honestly feels super rushed and can be an absolute trial of your patience. You'll most likely want to run through everything. Other things that can test your patience are some pretty atrocious runbacks. They don't always happen, but when they do, they suck ass through a straw, and it's usually when you die in dungeons. They don't have a separate checkpoint system like Stakes America, so if you die, you will spawn all the way back to your original checkpoint and have to run. With that being said, exploration is still lots of fun with tons of different paths and things to explore with fun rewards. What hampers the exploration though is a pretty limited enemy variety. You will get some new enemies here and there, but there's a whole lot of reuses and reskins that are just tankier and deal more damage. Another issue is that checkpoints range from being super generous to being super sparse, making things feel like a slog at times. Now, my favorite part of the game is the combat loop. You don't have stamina, so you can attack and dodge as freely as you like, but you still need to be attentive as enemies can be quite aggressive and dangerous. But what I enjoy is the resolve system. This resource allows you to use abilities, sidearms, and infusions, practically making these elements unlimited as long as you stay aggressive and perform melee attacks. So you get into this flow of attacking, switching to your sidearms or actives, then repeating. It's fast-paced and fun while being further enhanced by tar stones and shell upgrades. Your defensive options are interesting too and can change the way you play the game. Simply put, you have a lot to play around with. Overall, I'd say Mortal Shell 2 can be a really strong hit or a really strong miss. It really depends on the kind of player you are. If you're someone that doesn't spend too much time exploring and figuring out strong builds, you're most likely going to hate this game due to a sense of frustration and tedium. But if you're someone who likes to think up builds that are busted, then you'll most likely have the time of your life with the exploration and combat loop, since the game has a good amount of interesting tar stones and shells to play around with to spice up the experience. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Peace.